Hello and welcome to our third CPI inflation models presentation. This is being given in advance of the US Bureau of Labour Statistics Consumer Price Index CPI report announcement tomorrow on the 14th of April 2017. This is being recorded on the 13th of April. Let's go straight into the forecasts. Okay, these are my latest oil and gasoline based inflation forecasts. Using data up to January of 2017, here are the matches for February. The actual figure for February inflation was 2.7, and there are 5 models now. There is one using a 2-month moving average oil price to calculate the year-over-year changes. There's one using the year-over-year change for the same month as the actual inflation figure. There's one using the previous month's, a 1-month shifted oil price figure, and there are 2 gasoline models. One of them is a geometric. These are all geometric models, by the way, apart from this last one. Geometric model based on EIA gasoline prices, and a polynomial fit model based on similar or the same gasoline prices. Okay, so we've got March inflation forecasts and April inflation forecasts. These will be announced in the middle of April, on the 14th, that's tomorrow, and sometime in the middle of May. So these are to be announced, and so far the inflation peak has been at 2.7. Okay, and the forecasts have all been pretty close, between 2.7 and 2.8. The March inflation figure is really basically coming out at between just under 2.5 and 2.9, except for the oil coincident model, which actually has the worst correlation. So this is an outlier, and I'm regarding this with a little bit less confidence, so I've grayed that out in the presentation. April's figure is forecast to be a little bit less. So, okay, we're looking at 2.7% for February, somewhere between really 2.5 and 2.9 for March, and April's a little bit lower, between just under 2.3 and 2.4. And here are the graphs, and you can see actually the CPI figures, the actual figures in light bright blue. We have 3 geometric oil models. Okay, this is the mixed model, the red one, which is basically using 2-month moving average of oil prices. We have the coincident model, the green one, which I have a little less confidence in, which actually shows an earlier peak in inflation and inflation dropping more quickly. As you can see from these figures, it's showing lower figures for inflation than all the other models going forward. And then the purple model, which is the shifted 1-month model, which I've used before, which is actually forecasting inflation to rise a little bit to 2.9%, and here's a slightly magnified view of that. Okay, March's inflation here is a little higher than February's for that model. For the other models, it's falling a little bit. But as I said, I have less confidence in this model here. There is some uncertainty for the March figure because the oil price changes have been so sharp going into February, so it depends very much on the amount of delay. And so I've put here the greatest uncertainty in this forecast is for the March 2017 CPI forecast from our models, and the reason is that the US WTIC oil contract price change year over year was the maximum in February 2017. It was about 75%, and it's changing fast. It's now actually dropping. The year over year price change in oil is dropping, and the sharpness of these previous oil price changes and the peak in the oil price changes gives quite a sharp peak, and the position of the peak exactly month to month is not really exactly known, because there is some uncertainty of the time frame for oil prices to pass through to CPI inflation. We think this is round about a month. So this is really incorporating a sort of a 0 delay, a sort of 2-week delay smoothed, and a month delay. And obviously, if the oil price change peak is in February, then it may show up in the February inflation figure, or it may show up in the March inflation figure. If you take it further, you get a much poorer correlation. So I've really only gone to moving the oil price data by 1 month in order to make these forecasts. And these forecasts here are based on the EIA forecasted oil prices. So these are based on actual oil prices, and from March onwards we have month average forecasts given by the EIA for oil prices, and they are basically forecasting the oil price to be relatively flat for the rest of the year on their sort of base average forecast, which means that essentially year over year oil price changes are going to fall, and inflation is going to go back down towards 2%, and perhaps even a little below 2% on the basis of oil prices. If I look at gasoline, it's a very similar chart. It's a little bit of a better fit. Gasoline prices do fit better than oil prices, and we have EIA forecasts for gasoline prices for the rest of the year. So here we have predicted inflation figures based upon gasoline, a geometric model going up to July, and again it's showing a slight fall in inflation from about 2.7 to just under 2.5% in March, and falling a little bit again in April to around about 2.3. We have a second gasoline model, in fact there are several, and this one's a polynomial gasoline model, giving a pretty similar, this is a logarithm based model, the geometric model. This is a polynomial, sort of a quadratic based model. It's giving again very similar results, showing inflation perhaps going down to 2% in June, and then bouncing a little bit towards the later summer. But again, this model is giving 2.51% for March and 2.38% for April inflation. So basically these models are all pretty consistent, and you can see from that table that there's a good deal of consistency in these results. So, is winter spring inflation sprouting and growing? Well, our forecasts indicate that the peak is probably in, or at least it's near, and the peak inflation may well come in March, but it may already have arrived in February. So we're expecting really March's inflation not to be particularly different from February's inflation. Please visit our website at 1000gold.blogspot.com and www.patreon.com//Bellamy Research, and again, of course, this is purely research material being presented for educational entertainment purposes, and it does not constitute financial advice in any way. And please read the disclaimer carefully. No investment decisions are supposed to be made on the basis of this. This is just research presented as is. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and let's see if my forecasts work out for the CPI inflation tomorrow. Thank you very much, and goodbye.